Well, it's official. I just declared for the 2027 WNBA Draft in April. Join me in this journey.
A few moments later.
And there was a memo from the WNBA commissioner that was sent out to teams on Friday saying that a task force that's made up of groups, presidents and general managers, they're going to meet next week to discuss the issue as there are growing questions about whether the league needs to clarify that eligibility and update it, Bill.
So it is now official. The WNBA has hit the panic button. They're now seeking to call a series of emergency meetings starting next week to figure out if anyone can define what a woman is. Hey, you over there, do you know what a woman is? No, how about you? I'd have to assume that's basically going to be the premise of this meeting. Now, if you've been following this chronicle, and we covered it a few different times now, this, of course, all began when you had large swaths of WNBA players and coaches coming out vehemently and passionately against Sophie Cunningham and in support of so-called trans athletes. And we showed you the sound bites in the past where they're vocally saying, hey, you know, we want to play with men. We believe sports is about inclusion. We have no issues with trans athletes playing in our league. And quite hilariously, a couple of former retired male NBA players, and I love these guys, they're absolute kings, but they basically came out and said, okay, so if you're fine playing the sport with men, then we are now declaring and entering the WNBA draft for 2027, and they're making it official. And of course, we showed you how Enes Kanter Freedom, for example, pointed out, hey, we're reviewing the official eligibility guidelines of the WNBA. There's no specific definition of what actually constitutes a woman or anything saying you have to be a woman to actually play in the WNBA. So we're going to come in here and take over. Now, I'm once again going to go on the record and say I'm in full support of this. This is hilarious. These losers are getting exactly what they deserve, by the way, right? Don't sit around and complain now or claim we're making a mockery out of women's sport when you guys said you want men to be playing in women's sports. I cheer on male NBA players getting to finally relive their dreams, and it's just going to be completely hilarious. You know, finally the WNBA will be interesting. It'll be worth watching. But of course, what I now foresee happening is probably because, oh, we don't want it like that. That's a little too far. My prediction is the WNBA is going to figure out a way to try to block these male basketball players from coming into the league. But here is the thing about that. Again, if you have no definition of what a woman is, where's the dividing line? Why are they ineligible, but say a man that's taking hormones and is wearing a wig or something is, right? You actually have to have a concrete definition, and that's what's hilarious. And so I hope this battle goes as far as possible. If they try to exclude Enes Kanter and others from the draft, sue. Okay, that's an anti-discrimination lawsuit, because if there's nothing, again, saying you have to be a woman, you're not allowed to say men can't play. That's how civil rights law works. So here we go. This is coming up full steam ahead, and it's just pretty hilarious to watch, guys. We'll talk about it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, we start today with even more good news. Again, finally something entertaining coming out of the WNBA, because apparently this other guy right here, Royce White, has joined the movement. So we now have multiple male retired NBA players saying, yeah, we're going to go and join the WNBA, and take a listen to what he had to say.
Who exactly is eligible to compete?
I'm just having a blast in my feminine era. I never thought that I was a woman. You know, I've always trusted the science, and I thought I was a man my entire life. But, you know, after further review, look strongly. We are going to take the WNBA to the next level. I fully plan to declare for the draft officially in whatever formal legal means that happens. And I just want fair treatment. I want the WNBA to respect the glow up of my feminine era and let me participate as one of the first pro-life, and I do want to emphasize the pro-life because I am running for U.S. Senate here in the state of Minnesota, where primaries tomorrow, August 11th. Vote for myself, U.S. Senate, vote for the great Mike Lindell in the primary. But I want the WNBA to respect my glow-up. I'm living in my feminine era, and I'm having a blast. And real women, real black women deserve respect, and we deserve to be included in all spaces.
Yeah, so he's rocking the wig and everything. It's simply just too good. And look at that. Does that not look like a true woman to you? Oh, you're going to say it's not? Who are you to say, are you body shaming him? Are you look shaming him? Who are you to say what a woman can and can't have? Oh, women don't have beards. Why? Why? I thought women could do whatever they want, right? I thought there's no such thing as a gender norm. That's in itself a patriarchal construct. So there you see, this beautiful woman right here, Royce White. It's just too good. But of course, now that this is happening, now that these NBA players have kind of forced their hand on this issue, and of course, this is coming amidst other controversies, such as the way Sophie Cunningham is being treated on the court, protests at games, etc., etc. So here was the announcement made by the WNBA. Quote, the WNBA commissioner says a task force made up of presidents and general managers will meet to discuss what the word woman means. Interesting how they don't bring a scientist, although, they're probably going to bring some BS fake scientist who says, oh, well, gender fluidity or whatever. But anyways, okay. So the presidents and general managers are going to decide if, by the way, you've been paying attention to the behavior of many of these presidents and general managers, a lot of them appear to lean more pro-trans on this issue. So that'll be interesting to watch. Right? What are they going to do about this? I'm actually fascinated. As there are growing questions about whether the league needs to clarify that eligibility and update that, and hilariously, again, only happened once we had former NBA players joining the league. Now, the thing is that, you can make the argument, hey, well, maybe that's going to be too unfair because obviously they're going to go completely dominate in the WNBA. Obviously, that's two actual female athletes who are going to lose their spot and probably more if more male players join. But the thing we've been trying to warn them about and this crazy, ridiculous self-destructiveness of these very players is that's going to happen to you anyway if you allow trans athletes in the game, right? They did all of this effort for so many years. And honestly, maybe some of it succeeded. I don't know. I'm still not a big fan. But how much, for example, has ESPN been pushing? Actually, it's good to watch the WNBA. This is a real sport, et cetera, et cetera. So these women, think what you will of it, but I guess you could say in a sense they fought for this spot. They fought to be more on TV, making more money. And in true Eve biting the apple fashion, once they're finally getting what they want, they're like, okay, let's destroy our entire careers by letting the men come and play. But here the details go on. And what's hilarious about this is there's no single, apparently, rule book for the WNBA, so this is basically going to be a contested convention. We don't know how this is going to go. The vote here may come down to the wire because the commissioner's full statement here reads, quote, I know many of you have received questions in recent weeks regarding transgender athlete participation in women's basketball, and I expect this topic will continue to receive significant attention. I wanted to reach out to share how we are approaching these conversations at the league office and thank those of you who have responded to questions from the media with thoughtfulness and professionalism. But here's what's hilarious. So apparently, the professional structure of the WNBA is kind of leftist coded, I guess you could say, in itself, which is to say they have a collective bargaining agreement, right? A union, all this different stuff. And here's where the disaster may potentially come in.
The current WNBA collective bargaining agreement says only players who are women are eligible, but it does not further define women or specify criteria involving gender identity. It's too damn late. If your rules were more finite and clear, you wouldn't have to have a meeting of team presidents and general managers. We literally are living in a society where there has to be a debate that the league is for women.
As you can see here, second, our player eligibility rules, unlike the eligibility rules of some other leagues and governing bodies, are collectively bargained, which means it's basically going to have to be a democracy here between all of the teams. And here's where they're really checkmated. Here's where they're in a pickle. First of all, even if deep down, let's say a lot of these coaches and owners basically know that this is a really terrible idea, what can they do about it? Because let's be real, the tiny audience that does exist for the WNBA is overwhelmingly left wing. Does anyone want to be the GM or coach who's publicly known for going against the trans athletes? Yeah, that's a great way not just to lose your locker room, but really your fan base. Because again, you know, you have to bow to the woke mob to even be in the WNBA to begin with, basically, and have an audience in the WNBA. So, you know, don't be surprised, by the way, if because this is a democracy and everyone's scared to say what they really think, that they end up having to say, you know, men can play in the WNBA. But here's the other thing. So my prediction on this would be, right, it probably is leaning in the direction where they want to try to allow trans athletes in the sport, right, men to play, but they want to try to figure out how to draw some lines so that you don't get the ridiculous, you know, male NBA players coming in and completely destroying the rest of the league. But here's the issue they're also going to run into. Where's the dividing line, right? What defines a trans woman versus just a man? Because I was told this entire time, it's just a matter of how you identify. It's how you feel. You can wake up tomorrow. If you feel like you're a woman, then therefore you're a woman. And it's not about anything else. It's about how you identify. It's in here. It's this narcissistic kind of grandstanding ego thing. Okay, so you can't then say that Enes, Kanter, Freedom, or Royce White are not women. But then you might try to say, oh, well, I don't know, it's about hormone balances or something like that. Okay, but what if a biologically born woman, let's say, is just born with natural hormone issues and she doesn't produce enough estrogen as, you know, the rest of women do? Maybe she's infertile or something like that. Is she therefore banned from the WNBA? See where I'm going with this? There's no actual line they can really do, right? Are they going to do appearance? Oh, well, clearly, right, there's not even any type of body transformation surgery that was made to identify as a woman here. Well, again, so you're saying there's an actual standard for what a woman is supposed to look like? How transphobic of you, right? Who are you to say? You know? And I thought, right, if you just put on a wig, identify as a woman, you're so that they like, you notice that there's no standard they can actually figure out how to apply here, in my opinion, that would logically be able to prevent NBA male players from coming in without basically having to ban biological men, as they call them, from playing in the WNBA, if that makes sense. But I look forward to seeing them try, right? Watch, they're going to do all these mental gymnastics, but what I am really rooting for, and you know what, I'll go on the record saying I'll donate even a couple bucks to this legal fund. When that happens, sue the crap out of the WNBA. Enes Kanter needs to fight for his right to play his lifelong dream of women's basketball. Because again, you know, they can't create an arbitrary subjective standard here. It has to be something concrete, right? Either everyone who identifies as a woman gets to play, or you have to be biologically born a woman to play. There's no, like, any line you try to draw in between has so many obvious logical errors, right? Hormone testing, stuff like that. Like you can't really create an objective standard there that could be logically applied. So I very much look forward to finding out what they're going to do here. But, you know, just overall, one of my favorite stories ever. I don't know why we didn't think of this sooner, right? Like, we should have been doing this 10 years. Honestly, if we did this 10 years ago, maybe this trans sports thing would have never started to begin with, right? We should have just immediately been sending the men, and not like, you know, cosplaying, you know, whatever, cross-dressers, transgender identifying people. No, just send out the full-blown, you know, male NBA players, all that type of stuff. Go play there, try out for the Olympics, all this stuff, and then, you know, see what they do. But probably the best outcome of this, I would say, is that aforementioned, let's say, civil rights lawsuit happens, it goes to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court rules, hey, you know, we're going to create an objective standard here. If you call yourself a women's league, it has to be women only, right? But, you know, who knows? Honestly, though, either way, it's a win-win, because in the worst case scenario, the WNBA just looks really stupid. That's a win. Best case scenario, the Supreme Court nationally rules that this trans sports thing is not allowed to happen, or option C here, and how incredible would it be? Maybe I'm rooting for this one the most. They get cleared. They go play in the WNBA, and, you know, it'll finally be something worth watching. It'll be the greatest national spectacle we've ever seen. And again, if you're a libtard, if you support transgender athletes, there's nothing you can say about it. You can't sit there and complain that the sport's been ruined, or, you know, I kind of support them, but maybe that's not right. No, that this is what you support. If you identify as a woman, you get to play. So there you go. But we'll see what happens, guys. For now, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.